Forward and thank you so much for joining us today, Shreya Singhal.
Yes, sorry about the troubles.
No, I think that if there won't be troubles, there won't be a need to address mental health issues as well. And right, so thanks again for joining us. Incidentally, Shreya was the first specialist that we had spoken to on Saturday as a part of the series that we are doing. Today's series, the topic will be signs of stress in children. And before getting into that, as I was telling you about uh, the series itself and the initiative, Preeti Singh took the initiative. Uh, she's a certified a mental health first aider, and when she reached out to me, it was imperative that I join hands with her and try and do these series. My name is Akshat Sinha, and I'm an artist and a curator. As I mentioned, I've already spoken with Shreya on Saturday before on when we had spoken about children in the new normal that we are facing these days. I hope you are all keeping yourselves safe in this situation, staying home. Uh, these sessions are for you. So thank you very much again for joining us, Shreya. And I would directly like to ask this question with you. We are addressing signs of stress in children. While we are all at home and the children are home as well, uh, what are these issues and I mean the house is a safe environment for the children, uh, but from the references that I have seen, like the Hindu report and from UNICEF as well, that in the first days of lockdown itself, there was a spurt and an increase in calls for the child line. Uh, 1108 is the number. So they actually mentioned that there was an increase. They received 92,000 calls in the first 11 days itself. Why and how to see these things? What are these issues that would have been voiced during the calls?
Yes, thank you for that question. So again, it's a big number, 92,000 in 11 days.
Yeah.
So what we saw was a 50% rise in these calls to the helpline.
Right.
Now, the question that you asked, I think, is a big loaded question.
I know.
So let's try and break that into some heads so our audience can also understand.
Right.
So before we talk about what is the reason for these issues, what is the issue at hand we're discussing today?
Right.
So this all calls that have been made to the helpline refer to abuse. So abuse is when a child is harmed or there is a threat of harm.
Right.
So the child may be at risk of it. When we talk about abuse, when we talk about harm, it can be of various types.
Yes.
So the first one would be physical abuse. So if I'm physically harmed in any way, if I have injuries from it, if I have bruises from it.
Right.
The second one would perhaps be a sexual abuse, which is using a child for sexual gratification.
Right.
Right? Be it harassment or abuse. Then we're talking about emotional abuse. So if your caregiver is not able to provide you a safe environment, is perhaps indulging in things such as ridicule, in threatening you, in asking you to do things which are not appropriate,
Right.
Demeaning you in front of other people. Then we're talking about neglect, where your caregiver is not able to provide you with adequate health, education, nutrition, safety.
That's right.
And the other one that we more common now, especially amongst the younger population, is bullying and cyberbullying.
Right.
So perhaps if there are other children, adults, young adults, who may be threatening them, name calling them, teasing them, singling them out, in an internet case, trolling them,
Right.
sharing their information without other people, without their consent, things like that. Right? Now, when we talk about abuse, there are certain risk factors.
Right.
So it can depend on the age of the child. It can depend on the gender of the child.
Right.
Right? Other than that, it can depend on the family structure.
That's true.
It can depend on your caregiver characteristics, their behavior.
Right.
Right? So when we talk about parent or caregiver characteristics,
Hello, I can't. Uh,
Yeah, your screen's
okay,
frozen.
it froze.
I'll just wait. So when we talk about parent characteristics, we're
Right,
talking about perhaps their self-esteem.
right,
Are they anxious by nature? Do they have poor emotional regulation? Do they have low distress tolerance? So those are things that can also impact the child and
right,
put them at risk.
right.
Perhaps substance use. So right
That's
now,
also
if you
true.
value one explanation, again inconclusive, would
Mhm.
be that parents who may be using any substance, be it alcohol, anything else, and now they're withdrawals from
Withdrawal
it.
syndrome. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so increased irritability, low frustration tolerance, anger outbursts, they're
Right,
all directly related to withdrawal symptoms, right?
right,
When we talk about the current scenario, we also say that there are stressors in the caregivers, be it a job change. Now they're working remotely, so there's more expectation from them,
right,
maybe loss of income, taking care of their health. So those stressors also come into play that lead to high expressed emotion.
right,
So high temperaments, right? So now I don't know how to release that emotion, how to release that anger.
right,
There are less outlets for me to do,
right,
right? So that could be one reason. One of the other things, I think now the schools are closed, so children are confined to home.
right,
So that support system, so even if they have the opportunity to escape the house,
right,
the home
right,
environment for a couple of hours, go to another support person, be it their teacher, be it their friends.
right,
Now they're isolated from that. Uh, So these are again possible causes. Again, inconclusive. We can't draw a direct relation from these. And having said all of these things, doesn't mean uh, that difficult circumstances lead to abuse
right. They can be
and
very
they can
normal
be excused.
situations. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just because we're talking about these changing times, and we can see that parents are also having a hard time,
Right,
that doesn't mean that we can exclude it. It's
right,
still certainly not the children's fault.
right. So, I mean, it's nice that you were able to. I mean, I did put out a very loaded question with multiple things. I hope just to kind of, understand. So, you said that there are 4 or 5 different types of abuse or situations that the children might have been exposed to, be it physical abuse or a threat of physical abuse. It could be neglect and the other things that you just shared. Uh, and so, what I am understanding is that the children are not at fault, but they are in a certain situation because of which uh, earlier, prior to the lockdown and this challenging situation, they might have had some sort of a release when they were able to go out of that environment that was threatening to their physical or emotional status. Uh, that has stopped. How difficult would it be for a child to express these things? I mean,
Yes. So now they're confined to the house. So
right,
the two, three people that are there.
right,
And we don't have as many opportunities to release our stress.
right,
So what we say as emotion displacement, me displacing my anger on another person.
right.
Now that's just amongst the family members as well.
That's true. So what I really wanted to understand from that question was, like you said, that there are also cases of cyberbullying and trolling because we have access. The children also have access to a lot of online and being on social media. They are exposed to a lot of people. They are not necessarily they're not sure if they can be comfortable with, but they get into situations with them. But apart from that, there
Yes.
are situations for the children where they're confined to their home and where the perpetrators of the people who are uh, the reasons for the abuse or the challenge that the child is facing are the people in the family itself. uh,
Yeah.
so in a family of 4 or 3 or 4 or 5 people, if it's a nuclear family without the seniors in the household, how does a caregiver or a parent, one of the parents, how do you read these signs, both for both cases, when it is from an external from an external person or an individual that this abuse is coming from, and when it is coming from within the house itself.
Yes. I think what you pointed out is very important for all of us to be aware of.
Right.
When we look at statistics, it says that about 80 to 90% of these cases
Right.
happen with a person that we know of, be it in our immediate family, acquaintances,
Right.
people we know of, right? So when we talk about the signs, it is very important, one, for the caregiver, be
Right.
it one or both caregivers in the house, to have a relationship with the child
Right.
where they feel safe in talking to you about.
Right.
If they think that, okay, if I tell mom, she's going to come and take up her anger on me, or she's going
Right.
to beat me, or she's going to not take me seriously,
Right.
then I won't feel comfortable with even talking to the one person in the house who's perhaps not abusing me.
Right.
Right? So when we talk about signs, perhaps outside us or from within the house, if we're looking at physical abuse, it could be that I have physical injuries, I have unexplained bruises,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
In school performance, I would say that I am trying to avoid going to school. In the morning, suddenly I wake up with a tummy,
Upset.
finding
Yeah.
a way to not go to school.
Right.
So there must be a reason as to why they're avoiding it.
Right.
Maybe poor or a decline in my academic performance.
Right.
Right? Other thing would be that I'm more withdrawn.
Mm-hmm.
I am more isolated. I don't feel like talking to my friends as much.
Right.
Maybe there's even a change in my friends circle.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm also on the edge, hyper vigilant.
Right.
Feeling like something bad's about to happen.
Right.
I am not sharing as much with my parents as I used to.
True.
Right?
True.
If we talk about sexual abuse, then perhaps flinching at any sudden movement.
Okay.
If you're trying to hug somebody, high five somebody, they refrain from that. They won't do that.
Okay.
Perhaps wearing inappropriate clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So on a hot summer day, they'll be wearing full sleeves
Okay.
t-shirts because
Right.
they don't want to expose their skin.
Right.
Right? When we talk about bullying, again, keeping to themselves,
Right.
avoiding a certain person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So these would just be some signs. Again, do not draw a direct conclusion.
Right. So, who do you think, would need to take the initiative? I know that the caregiver or the mother or the father or somebody in the family needs to, it could be sibling as well, right? Who can be helped to understand. So, how does one go about doing this? How do you tell somebody that it is okay? Say in a situation
Yes.
where you start off in the morning, how do you try? Because you cannot be talking about it, it's difficult to talk about these things. So, how does one approach this?
So when we talk about approaching, I think let's put on headphones. Maybe that will reduce.
Okay.
It's better now.
Okay.
So when we talk about
That's
speaking
definitely
to a
better.
child,
Sorry. Yeah.
the first thing would be that we educate them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We cannot be expecting to questioning a child.
Right.
Or telling them it's okay if they don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So educating child about abuse, sexual abuse, harassment, bullying is very,
Right.
very important.
Right.
And it can start as early
Mm-hmm.
as possible. So we're not, sometimes we say, oh, the kid is just 5 years. I don't want to talk about sexual abuse with them. They're too young.
Right. Right.
So it's important that we start early. So as an example, I'd say we often conduct these good touch, bad touch workshops.
Right.
So we would address somebody even as young as 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And we will explain to them what body parts are. So this is my hand, this is my nose, these are my eyes.
Right.
Right? Now the body parts that are covered when I wear a swimsuit
Mm-hmm.
are my private parts.
Right.
Those are parts that nobody can touch.
Right.
Only perhaps mom can touch if she's helping me with the shower.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If a doctor is examining me, but again in the presence of my mom or a caregiver.
Right.
Hmm? And we explain to them what good touch is. So, like if when mom gives me a hug,
Right.
and I like that, that's
Right.
good touch.
Right.
When my dad gives me a high five, that's good touch. I feel good about it.
Right.
Right? Now, if anybody tries to touch me in a way that does not give me the same feeling,
Right.
that's bad touch.
Okay.
Right? Then what do we do about it? If somebody is doing that, what do I do?
Correct.
So we would perhaps give them an example. If you try and disturb a bird,
Right.
what do? They fly away. If you try and throw a stone at a street dog,
Right. They
he's
run.
going to bark at you.
Right.
So similarly, we use our voice. We say no.
Okay.
And we continue to say no till they listen.
Right.
Then we can leave that place.
Okay.
And then we go and tell someone who is in my safe circle. So that's my caregiver.
Right.
Like you mentioned earlier, it could be that people in my family are the ones who are doing this.
True.
So I can't trust them. So they are not in my safe circle.
Right.
So who are the people who belong in your safe circle? That's a discussion that you need to have.
Right. Right.
Right? Similarly, with older children, say we're talking about an instance of cyberbullying,
Right.
then we have to make sure that we come across to them as one team.
Right.
That they can come and speak to us about it.
Right.
It's not about me versus my parents.
We're in the same
It's
corner.
about us against the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Right? So that is one thing, that we start with education. The second thing would be that we start asking them questions. Open-ended questions of how was your day? Let's play a game where we both talk about one thing that upset me this week.
Okay.
Right? So more open-ended questions, try and see how they're feeling.
Right.
Perhaps if there's something coming on TV, like you're watching a cartoon,
Right.
or you're watching a show where a kid is being bullied,
Right.
that's a great opportunity for you to bring that up.
Right. Right.
Discuss a hypothetical situation. Okay, what if you go to your friend and they say this, what would you do?
Right.
Right? Also, this one time in school, this kid used to throw erasers at me.
Right.
What did I do? So self-disclosure can be a great way, because the child understands that they're not alone.
Right.
And also, you understand you're all on the
same page. Right. Right.
So one is that, again, we talk to them.
Right.
Then once they have opened up to us about any such instance,
right,
then we listen to them carefully.
right,
So we assure them that they have done the right thing by coming to us.
right,
We do not blame them. We assure them that it is not their fault. We assure them that we will take the right measures to help them in this.
right,
They don't have to feel guilty.
mm-hmm.
And also very important that we share with them what we plan to do about it.
Right.
So sometimes there are cases where if it's a family member, a relative,
right,
a child may feel like I shouldn't go up to my parents and tell them because then they'll fight with me. And I actually really like my cousin, so I don't want that relation to be.
Right.
So it's important for us to also take the time to tell them how we're going to deal with it.
Right.
And in case we don't work with other people,
right,
then we keep that information to our family or to our safe circle.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's important, I mean, so as I understand, just to again, because it's a very heavy topic, but it's a very important thing. So just to try and, put together what you just mentioned, is to try and get them to speak about it. Rather the first thing would be to educate them as to what is right and what is wrong, try and help them from an earlier age as well, already, so that they're aware of the good and the bad parts of it. Second would be the questioning and open-ended questions and giving them hypothetical situations and getting them to talk about it, right? The next, as you mentioned, is the listening part, where you actually listen to them without any judging them, and then trying to explain to them how it would be handled and without any anger. I think that would be a very important thing. Right? And So, but in case there is a situation where the person, whoever is the caregiver and the child, they find themselves in a situation where it is probably not possible for them to address this, what are the opportunities or options available to, uh, who should they, kind of reach out to? Hello? Yeah.
Important question. What do we do if we cannot discuss this with our family?
Right.
So schools and our teachers play a very important role in this,
Right.
which is why we say that after home, school is our second safe place.
Right.
So we need to identify the right people in our school.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my class teacher, maybe a subject teacher, maybe the school counselor,
Right.
anyone, that I can share this with. So
Right.
that would be my first source.
Right.
And second, if I'm not able to do that, then perhaps another person who I count in my safe circle.
Right.
If it's not my family, if it's an extended family member, if it's a neighbor.
Right.
Right? And then third would be to non-profits or to the government.
Okay.
So there are a couple of helplines that run. The Childline helpline is the most used. It's 1098. So you can call them, you can reach out to them. It's a 24/7 helpline.
Right.
Then other non-profits such as Save the Children India, CRY are also doing a lot of work in this field.
Right.
So again, the idea is to report it to somebody so they can come and help you in terms of protection.
Right.
If you feel that your family or caregiver will not be able to do that, or if you have an elder sibling.
Right. Right. So we've spoken about what are the do's for a parent or a caregiver or a guardian. More or less, that's what we've discussed. What are the don'ts that that should be avoided, except for one thing that you mentioned, that we should not judge them? What are the other things that we should avoid?
Right. So one would be, like you said, don't judge them. Do not blame them.
Right.
Do not be angry.
Okay.
Right? Because
our
then
own
it
reaction.
comes across that that's not my safe circle. Yeah. We have to show them that we're together in this and we have to help them through this.
Right.
So those have to be the biggest don'ts.
Right.
And also do not share that information with people that you feel will not be supportive for you.
Right.
Those would be the biggest don'ts for me. In terms of do's, I would also point that meet again and again. If once,
right.
2 years, I told him about good touch, bad touch, and then that's done with.
Right.
So we have to try and repeat this information as often as possible.
Reiterate it.
Perhaps even reiterate it. For 3 months, take the time to sit down with your child.
Right.
And to discuss anything that is on their mind.
Right.
Maybe topics like these.
Right.
So the key really is to start educating and to communicate often.
Right. Right. Is there any specific thing that nowadays, because once we have already established that these things are there, there is a case that needs to be addressed, and we are stuck at home right now. I know that the telephone calls are available to Childline and all the other options. How to console the child, on a day-to-day basis? How to make them stronger as well at the same time? I mean, to be able to handle situations like saying no.
So if they have shared this, so you've crossed that barrier,
right.
That communication barrier, and now they have opened up to you. If we're able to show to them that we are there in support of them,
right.
that's half the battle won.
Right.
So they know that, okay, I can trust this person.
Right.
And I can sleep at night peacefully without worrying about what's going to happen the next morning.
Right.
Okay? So once we have that clear, we have to now try and also engage them in other activities.
Okay.
If they still feel that those thoughts are recurrent, perhaps encourage creative ways to get through with that. So write a letter.
Okay.
Maybe maintain a journal.
Right.
maybe you and the child can sit together and create some artwork.
Right.
When we talk about art therapy as well, colors, our strokes, they all indicate our emotions, our moods.
Right.
So those can be great outlets, but other than that, engage them in activities of their interest.
Right.
I don't want to use the word distraction because this is not something that you can distract your child from.
Right.
But you can encourage them to participate in everyday activities to bring back the normalcy.
Right.
And also assure them that whatever they have shared is confidential.
Right.
And the right actions will be taken upon discussion with them.
Right. So they feel involved.
Absolutely.
Right.
See, we also have to understand why it took the child so long to come to you.
Right.
There must be reasons that are holding this child back.
Right.
So you want to explore those and then you want to help through those.
Right. So you kind of also want to make sure that those reasons which existed, which became as barriers in the child speaking out, need not exist anymore. They need to be removed. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, we keep coming back to communication.
Yeah. I think which is the most important.
Perhaps even some introducing some positive self-affirmations.
Right.
Like, it's not my fault. Right. I did not bully. I will not be bullied.
Right.
I can do this for myself. Any sort of statement that makes them feel more empowered, more in control of that situation.
Right.
That will also be helpful.
Right. Thank you so much. I think we've again, because these questions are very important and there's a lot of depth to them, both for the causes and how they need to be addressed, and what we can do as individuals to help the children and the people out of this situation. I would like to thank you again, Shreya. And I hope and I expect that we'll be doing a few more sessions in the coming weeks, and where we can discuss more about child health, mental health, and how to support them through this. Thank you so much, Shreya. Right, and I would like to
I hope next time we have better network.
Yeah, we'll work that out. Yeah. These are things which are beyond us.
Yeah, they're beyond us, absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm thankful to all the listeners who stayed back, kept coming back despite all the technical issues. And you are welcome to follow us on Instagram and on our Facebook page, Mind at Ease. We look forward to your feedback and suggestions and questions if you might have. Thank you so much for being there. And thank you, Shreya, again. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right.